Good morning, it's Darla at Scrap Happens here with Tuesday's tip. I got a couple of emails asking me how to do a certain technique that I do, a simple technique that I think is totally simple. But then it occurred to me that some of you out there are brand new to paper crafting. You've never used punches, you've never used a BigShot, you've never embossed, dry or heat embossed. So today I want to share one of my favorite techniques to add texture and dimension to your cards or scrapbook pages. And I have examples in these two cards, these two birthday cards. This is the technique I want to show you, is how to add dimension to something that you've die cut. And it's so simple and adds such a great look to any of your projects. So to get started, I pre-punched, I've done the video a couple times because I kept messing up, but I pre-punched some balloons using my balloon bouquet punch. Great punch, I love it, especially for birthdays. And I pre-punched them in Bermuda Bay, Lemon Lime Twist, and Berry Burst. And I am going to add them to my softly falling embossing folder. I think you can see the texture from this embossing folder. Maybe it's better open. Anyways, so you're going to add your balloons to the embossing folder. And then you're going to run it through your BigShot. So let me talk to you about your BigShot for a minute. When I first got my BigShot, I had been attending classes and I got it as my half off item. And I used it at the classes just fine. The instructor was there to help me with the layering and I did just fine. But then I got it home and never took it out of the box because I was so afraid that I was going to use it wrong. So I totally want to encourage you to get those BigShots out of their boxes and use them. Don't do what I did. Don't be intimidated by it. So I want to show you how to do the layering. And then if you forget, you can just refer back to this video. Now, when I got my BigShot, it came with this multi-purpose platform. And there are layers that you use. This, with all three of them down, is what you use for the framelits. So you use the multi-purpose platform, you use a cutting board, then you put your paper along with a framelit on top. So here's your paper. Let me grab a framelit and I can show you. You put that on, and then you put another cutting pad, and then you just roll it through your BigShot. So that's how you do the framelits. Now for the embossing folders, you want to go 2 and then 1. You want to flip those back, and this says right here, embossing folder. Maybe I'll raise it up so you can read it. So that tells you how to use it. And then you layer it with that same cutting pad. And then the embossing folder that you put your balloons on. And then another cutting pad. And then you roll it through your BigShot. But today I want to show you also how to use another board that you can get to go with your BigShot. And it's much easier because you don't have those flaps down in the way. So now you can get a BigShot platform right here. And then there's a thin die adapter to use with your framelits, but we're going to set that aside because we don't need it with the embossing folders. All we need is this BigShot platform, and I put it on my BigShot, and then I put a cutting board down, cutting pad, and then my balloons got a little messed up, so I'm going to fix them real quick because I don't want them to be on top of each other and they won't get as much texture. And I lay it down, and then I put another cutting pad on top. And then I roll it through my BigShot. And I often roll it through backwards as well, just to make sure that that texture is really good. But our Stampin' Up! Cardstock is the best cardstock for embossing. It's just, it's double thick paper, and it just takes the texture so well. I think you can see that. I love it. Now, another tip I want to give you about embossing your cardstock, especially when it's a shape, you always want to cut the shape first. You don't want to emboss, say, this piece of paper and then punch your balloons out, because it will flatten your embossing. Not as bad with the punches, but really bad with framelits. So if you wanted to emboss this piece of paper and then cut a circle out, and you run it, and you've already embossed it, and you run it through your BigShot again, it totally flattens it, the embossed image. So you don't get that texture that you want, or at least that I want, because I like texture and dimension. So those are just a couple of tips for using your BigShot. I hope that your BigShot isn't still in its box and it's something that you use daily. I use mine daily. Well, as long as I'm getting out to my workshop daily, I use it daily. And I hope that you'll try this technique. It's a really fun, makes a really fun birthday card, obviously. But even on this piece of paper, you can see the embossing on that Whisper White background. So it's just a really fun technique to add dimension to your projects. Thanks so much for coming by today. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving week. I had a great week. All my kids, well, they weren't all home for the whole week, but the kids that are still in school were home for the whole week, and all the siblings came and went. You know, some were here for 4 or 5 days, some were here for a couple days, and it was just great to have them all home and under the same roof. That hasn't happened for 4 years, so it was really fantastic. Thanks again for stopping by, and I will see you next week with another Tuesday's tip.